Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. My name is Jawanza, and I'm going to talk today about my attempt to trade stocks with Node. It's kind of more specifically with JavaScript, but Node was a part of it. Basically, working with Node as a career basically means working with web servers. And so after some time, it gets not boring, but if you want to do interesting things like control airplanes or I don't know, if you're a terrorist, like make bombs. And those are interesting things that maybe you want to do with Node. For me, trading stocks was the thing that I wanted to do. And I'm just going to kind of share why, talk about some of the peculiarities of that, and kind of how far I got and kind of what road I had to take to do that. So this is the agenda. I'm going to talk about myself for a minute, try not to be too self-absorbed, just one slide. I'll talk about programmatic trading, kind of what it is, what some strategies are around it. Talk about kind of platforms that you use to do that, and then talk about my experience trying that, and then take any questions at that point. So about me, I work with Node as a career. I've been doing that for a while now. I'm an avid cyclist. Graduated from Brigham Young University. I do photography on the side, and I really want to get into kayaking. So if anyone here is a kayaker and knows kind of the ropes, be happy to talk to you. So just reach out to me. All of my social media handles are at Jawanza, kind of a unique name. Thanks to my mom for making up a name for me. Appreciate it. So that being said, does anyone in here manage their own investment accounts? Okay, so quite a few. Just out of curiosity, are you managing that like through E-Trade or Scottrade, or are you just using like some platform to do that?
E-Trade.
E-Trade. Okay. Cool. So typically, if you do try to manage your own investment portfolio, you have to use a third-party service that will kind of facilitate the trading for you. So that's a roadblock that I'll discuss in a minute. So investments are about making that cash. So making money is kind of an important prerogative for many of us, and including this panda, who we I guess work pretty hard, and we want our money to go far, and so that's what investment is about. It's the belief that leaving your money where it is, kind of stagnant, will be less efficient and kind of a worse position than investing in an asset that will grow over time, and then you will have more money in the future. So my thought is that if we're going to invest, programming will essentially make that investing go better. And that's why I wanted to get into this. And this burly, bearded guy agrees with his head nod. And so that's kind of the impetus for going down this road. So there are kind of two schools of programmatic trading. There's high frequency and algorithmic. So algorithmic is like a child, or excuse me, high frequency is a child of algorithmic trading. So I'm going to talk about the differences between the two, as it will be important in the future of the presentation. So high frequency trading. This video kind of shows you what that is. So this child is eating, and his parent is stuffing his mouth as fast as they can with food. So there's this idea that speed alone can gain you an advantage in markets. That there are prices that are growing, there are prices that are increasing and decreasing over time, and that if you have speed, you can exploit those differences, or you can trick your child into eating more as well, apparently. So this is another illustration of something that's high frequency. Whereas algorithmic is more of the idea of prescriptive rules or descriptive rules around trading. So this person is basically mimicking the Pandora algorithm, which is thumbs up, thumbs down, and it'll give you an idea of what you would want to listen to over time. So definitely thumbs down on the dog poop that's in there. So there's that. So one of the large platforms for doing this kind of stuff is Quantopian. And Quantopian is, it's like a Rails app that you write Python in to do algorithmic trading. And I used to work in data science, and so I wrote a lot in Python. And it's an okay platform, but Python has its peculiarities, as every language does, and it wasn't something that I really liked particularly. Quantopian, that is. They did provide these cute dashboards that kind of gave you a nice look into how your stocks were performing over time with your algorithms. So that was nice. And so what I wanted to do is do the same thing in JavaScript, essentially. Have a platform or a way to trade stocks using algorithms and see how my performance goes over time. So why would JavaScript, and specifically in this case Node, be good for trading? The event-driven. So this was the first GIF that came up when I did event-driven. I thought it was funny. So it doesn't really look like event-driven programming, but it looks like a good time nonetheless. And then also streaming. So stock market data is basically this continual stream while the stock market is open of prices and other metadata that needs to be processed and then make decisions on in an algorithmic sense. So Node has a very nice ecosystem for handling that kind of thing. So with that, I kind of got to a roadblock because it's a lot of data to crunch. So am I going to scrape the whole New York Stock Exchange all day, every day? Am I going to benefit enough from the cost of doing that to make it worth it? The same thing with the NASDAQ. Or do I go out and try to get third-party data? So I say I'll pay a fee per month to access someone's data who's doing this in real time. And that turns out to be really expensive as well. So what I did end up doing is just signing up for one of these services so that I could have the data that I needed in order to try to do this experiment. So I guess what I'm getting at is this is not cheap. So being a terrorist is probably a lot cheaper. If you wanted to make bombs and program them to go off at a certain interval, that's going to be cheaper than trying to deal with this data. The volume of data that you get from any stock market or any commodity market is just out of control, ridiculous. It's even more so ridiculous if you're trying to deal with it on the intervals that you need to really kind of take advantage of the high frequency trades. So I went over that already. So this is what I wish I could do. Pretty much is copy and paste money and make it. Then I would have my trading algorithms be awesome. Nonetheless, continue on. This is the platform that I used. It's called Cloud9 Trader. It's written in Node and it has a JavaScript SDK. And what it basically allows you to do is use their SDK inside of their platform, and then they have connections that they've written with Node to the different markets that you can then manipulate within their platform. So very similar to Quantopian, but in Node. And then also the second link that I have is to it's a C library that they've used to make it all possible, and they've just wrapped it around in Node in order to do that. So I messed with both. It turns out that it's pretty non-trivial, I guess, to do this kind of stuff, but fun nonetheless. So these are the things that I used. So I just wanted to go over the basics of trading and some stock market terminology for those who are unfamiliar. So first is the bull. So the bull is someone who is optimistic about the future of a stock. So they think that it is worth it to buy that stock or option, essentially. So not avoid it like these guys are doing, but nonetheless. A bear is someone with the opposite position. So I feel like this is really amazing that a bear can do that. But a bear is someone who is pessimistic about the future, and so they think that we should get out of a commodity or out of a stock immediately. Position is buying a commodity or stock at a specific value. So these are just terms I'm going to use in a few minutes to explain kind of what I did. A tick is a price change. So in most markets, this is a penny or more in either direction. And so sometimes you have to model data after ticks. And so that's just another thing I wanted to point out. Here are some common algorithm types that are used. So the first, trend following, that's an algorithm that just says, hey, here's the historical pattern of this stock, and we're going to buy and sell according to that pattern. So it's a very prescriptive way of trying to trade, but that's one way to do it. Arbitrage is the idea that you have a commodity at a certain price and you feel like it's undervalued, so you try to sell it in another market, essentially. Volume weighted average price is an average that's based on how much the volume of the stock is moving. And then trading range is you look at the range that the stock has gone over some period of time, and then you try to make decisions on that. And then mean reversion is kind of an interesting algorithm. It basically says that every stock has a median point or a mean point that is kind of maybe unknown to the general market, but known to you somehow because you're omnipotent, I guess. And so you're going to make trades around that mean. And so it's another way to go about it. So within this platform, so within Cloud9 Trader, they have a couple functions that you use in order to try to execute trades. So here are two basic ones. So on tick would execute, this function would execute every time the price changed for a commodity. So if you had stock in Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg went to the New York Stock Exchange, the backflip, and your on tick was set on Facebook, and then people were excited about the backflip that he did, you would be able to gain or lose based on that. And then on interval close, so you can specify intervals, whether those be in seconds or you can do seconds, minutes, hours, and then quarters, weeks, and those kinds of intervals. And so you can set up models to execute on that kind of a schedule as well, rather than the on tick. As you can imagine, the on tick is very expensive from a data perspective because stocks, even though you might get to the end of the day and the stock is moved like a fraction of a percentage, throughout the whole day it actually moves quite a bit. And when you look at the penny amount, kind of between the bids, which are people trying to buy, and then the asks of people trying to sell, it's all over the place. So doing on tick is expensive. On interval is a little less computationally expensive. So within the platform, scoping variables is really important, which it is kind of in JavaScript in general. But in this little snippet, what we have is we have a previous price, which is going to be declared. We can either declare it in the script or we can actually declare it in the interface, which this example has. So previous price I've set within the interface, and then I'm saying on tick, we're going to look for the current price, which we're saying is not the actual listed current price, but it's the average of the bid and ask price. And then we set another variable called price movement, and then if the previous price is true, then we do something, and then if it's not, then we don't do anything. So that's just a base example of that, not painfully interesting. So Just to kind of highlight the simplicity of kind of thinking through algorithms that you can use in the stock market, here's one that I came up with that I'm calling the naive algorithm. I'm going to assume that if it's sunny outside, so I put sunny D because my wife and I were talking about Sunny Delight and how it was equally the most disgusting and the most delicious beverage of our youth. And so it was just on my mind. So if it's sunny outside, people are going to want to eat ice cream. And if they want to eat ice cream, then the price of sugar is going to go up. So that's my algorithm. So I want to trade according to this algorithm. So this is basically what you would write within the Cloud9 platform. So I would have a variable called sunshine that I would make global, and I would have a function that would get me the hours of sunshine in a specific day. And then on tick for a specific commodity, this case being sugar, I would say if it's more than 4 hours, which I've arbitrarily chosen, to open a position, which means to buy. And so then I'll buy 1,000 of the sugar commodity. And if that's not true, then I'll close my position, which means sell all my stock. So this is a really stupid algorithm because if we're in the summer in Utah where it's sunny every day for more than 4 hours, then I'm going to spend all my money on sugar. And then if it's randomly rainy one day, I'm just going to sell all of my stock. And that's really the dumbest algorithm possible. But it's just to illustrate kind of how you go about writing an algorithm in here. It's actually very easy in the sense of you think, people on Wall Street and the things that they're doing and all this like programmatic trading is like so complicated. But what it comes down to is like the algorithms that we write for anything. They're very, at the base, they're accomplishing something very simple. And so while this algorithm is dumb, it's just illustrating how you would go about writing this. I made an algorithm a little bit more complicated here. So I added another variable called periods. So I'm trying to mix periods and on tick. So I set periods to 20. So that means every 20 seconds to execute this. So what I'm saying is if it's sunny, if sunshine is above 4, and WMA is a weighted moving average over the last 20 periods is greater than this William R period. So in finance, there's a lot of like crazy functions and stuff people have come up with that all hint at the same thing, just some kind of average. If that's true, then buy 1,000. If otherwise, close all the positions. So this will probably never actually be true because the WMA and the Williams are like extremely highly correlated. But whatever, just another example. But to kind of wrap all of this up, I just wanted to share kind of the longest and most interesting algorithm that I came up with. So I explained that I paid for this platform, and over the course of the 2 months that I paid for it, it was like $40 a month. I was doing a lot of work on it, like just messing around with different algorithms, trying to get it to work. And the support at the company that runs the site noticed that, probably because I was the only person using bandwidth on it, because it seemed like a very empty place. Because everyone who's into this space is typically using like Haskell or C++ or whatever, because that's just traditionally what's been used, and the rumors of it being faster and more performant are just rampant. So that's what it's using. So it's very empty. Like there's a social platform on there and no one is on there. And so the support reached out to me and they said, "Hey, I see you're writing these algorithms and whatnot. Would you mind sharing them with us, and then we can work on one together, and then we can like publish it to this queue that's like shared algorithms for the community?" And I said, "Sure." And so, but then it didn't end up giving me any credit for it. So whatever, that's all right. So here's the algorithm, and apologies for it being in this editor or in this slide, but it's actually pretty nice in this. You can like scroll and it has syntax highlighting. So I figured why switch to WebStorm or Sublime when this happens, when this is so nice. So as algorithms get more complicated, you can start viewing more and more that are external to the prescriptive variables they give you in the platform. So in this case, I'm setting some externals, which are variables that are external to the ones that they give you in the platform, essentially. So I'm setting a short SMA, which is short moving average, and setting that to 20, and then a long SMA, setting that to 10, and then I'm making this variable called bullish, which is actually one that exists in the platform. It's just a Boolean that's true or false. So either you are bullish or you're not bullish, which means that you're bearish. So it's a very binary world that you live in stocks. And then I just make sure that these types are set correctly, because I can actually overwrite what's in the script, which is a little bit janky, but it's what you got to do when you're messing with Cloud9, I guess. So then I do some word checking for errors here. So, if short SMA is greater than long SMA, then I just report that. And then I make sure that, so SMA is, can't remember. It's actually short-term moving average. So if that's the short-term moving average of that value is greater than the short-term moving average of the long value, then it's actually in a bullish state. Otherwise, it's not in a bullish state. So then from there, I come down here to the on tick. And so for this commodity, I'm looking for every tick. And basically looking to see if these conditions that I have outlined up here are still true, so that I can know if I'm in a bullish or bearish state. And if I'm in a bullish state, then I will open a position, and this risk percentage is a function they give you in the STK that will allow you to say how much of your portfolio you want to give. So I only want to risk 1% in this case. And then if I'm losing money, I want to stop it at a specific value. So in this case, it's the bid price minus 20 times the pip size, which is, it depends on the security. It's just a number that indicates the size of the commodity, essentially. And then I want to take profit, which is kind of an upper limit. So when the commodity gets to a certain price, I want to sell at that point. And then I have another if, and I do the opposite of that in this position. So basically what I learned from this is that if you want to trade stocks with programming, probably stuck with doing it in a different language, because Cloud9, while it offered a good way to get started, it actually is quite slow compared to other engines that are written in C++ and whatnot. And you really do need that speed in order to do this. And another thing I learned is Node, or specifically JavaScript. There's a lot of floating point arithmetic that happens with trading stocks, as you can imagine. And I've got some crazy errors that were just like it exploded on me because of just some addition that happened, and it just didn't really work out that well. Also, I think the final thing is, I think there's a lot of room for this kind of programming in the Node ecosystem, but it's going to need to be something that evolves over time. And it's also kind of not really worth it. So of all the algorithms that I wrote, I lost money every time because, mostly because you can't really make money in the short term in the stock market. You need to really have a long-term view, unless you really get amazing algorithms, which I had really shitty algorithms, so I didn't get anywhere. But it was at least an interesting experiment. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. If not, then I will sit down and take your time back. All right, thanks.
Thank you.